Ladies and gentlemen, today is January 27th, 2015. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 207. I'm your host, Keenan Lafferty, and today is Tutorial Tuesday, where we learn to be better artists. But right now, we are doing a Let's Paint. We're focusing on a Let's Paint of the beautiful Ahri. And today, what we're going to be doing is focusing on how to create color comps for your pieces. But before we get into that, we need to take a stroll down a very special place. And that place is called the Lovely Lane, because you guys have been being awesome and submitting your work, and we got to scroll through that. So thank you once again to all of the awesome artists who have submitted their work to the Facebook. If you'd like to go check all of these pieces out for yourself, just type in that tiny URL at the bottom, or if you're watching this on YouTube, click that link there and go get cookies. All right, ladies and gentlemen. With all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get into the time lapse because we need to get caught up as to where you guys are from the last episode. And for those of you who don't know, this is part 3 of the series. And yeah, if you haven't seen the other 2 parts, go watch them now. Otherwise, you might not know exactly what we're doing here. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and get into the time lapse. So where we left off last time, we left off on Monday, was we were finalizing the line work that we were going to use in our piece, kind of doing a little bit more of our setting down, like drawing and erasing, doing that technique. And today you're going to find out why I like to work like this, why I like to draw and add in a little bit of my values during the painting stage. And you can see over here, these are all my layers. But this is basically set up in a way that all of the white that you're seeing in the piece is actually transparency. I'm only painting lines and values. And lighter values are created by simply erasing. And let's see if I can talk today. Let's see if I can get this out today. I'm sure I can. All right, but at any rate, we just got these quick little time lapses catching up, and then we're moving into something. Whoa, what's going on? Whoa, well, it happened in about 5 seconds, but what you saw me do there was I went around the entire piece and I took my ink brush, right? For those of you who want to get my brushes, they're on the Twitch channel as well as down in the YouTube comments. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the edges. See these like nasty artifacts, like these ugly brush strokes that are happening around the silhouette of the character? We don't like those. And we're going to get rid of those right now. So we use our full opacity hard round brush, I like to call it the ink brush, and I just go around and I trim the outside of the character. And this is a very cool technique for creating masks. And I have taught you guys about how to do this before, but I'm thinking, should I go into it today? Why not? I'll do it today. If today ends up being a bit of a longer daily, then whatever. I don't really care because you guys this is an imperative part of my process and you guys really, really need to get this. You really need to get it. So I'm going to make sure that I go through it in depth with you before we get to the time lapse. Or before we get to the color comps. Man, I'm just on a roll today. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom out a little bit. And let's talk about what I did there. Let's talk about how to create these masks because we are going to be getting ready to do color comps. And the first thing we're going to need to do is close out of this because I don't need this anymore. And let's open up our good old-fashioned Ahri Studies 2, or Ahri Studies 3. Okay, and I'm going to show you exactly why I cleaned up those edges. And basically we're going to get this. See how we have these silhouettes set up here? There's a silhouette for the body, a silhouette for the hair over there, and silhouettes for the tails, or rather masks. And this is something that I used to do manually, where I used to go in and I would like have the lines, right? Imagine that none of this stuff was here yet. I'd be like, all right, it's time to mask. Let's make a new layer, grab our mask color, and let's use our nice hard round brush. Yeah, and let's start masking. Yeah. Oh, I'm feeling this. Oh no, we went out of the lines a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and kind of clean that up. All right, yeah, and let's do that with like every little piece of hair that comes out there. No, this is not the way to do it. This is a very inefficient way to do it, and I would recommend that you never do it again. Because today I'm going to teach you a quicker way. And the first thing that's going to come into play is our good old lines. Remember how we cleaned up the lines? We made those edges nice and hard. And that's going to come into play right now because I'm going to show you a cool trick. Take out your magical wand, your magical fairy wand. W is the shortcut. And then you're going to select all of the area around your character. Okay, so right here, and here, and here, and here, there, and maybe there. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you are going to hit Shift-Control-I, and that is going to, oh wait, we don't want to do that yet. No, what you want to do is, I have a shortcut set up to do this, but you're going to go up to Select, and you're going to go to Modify, then you go to Expand, okay, Select, Modify, Expand, and then I like to expand my selection by about 3 pixels. And what this does is it kind of pulls in or kind of tightens that selection a little bit further into your lines. See what I'm talking about there? We went from right here. I really hope you guys can see those marching ants. Can you see those? Okay, at any rate, you can see them. I'm pretty sure you can see them. And then it pulls them in. Okay, so now you should see the marching ants going through there. And then that makes it so you can have a cleaner mask without it overflowing too much outside of the lines. Getting some of those weird little artifacts or like glitchy pixels. We don't like that. Okay, now what you're gonna do is hit Shift-Control-I, and then you're gonna go to Edit and Fill. And then fill it with whatever color you've chosen here, which is your foreground color, and boom! Oh, but make sure you do that on the layer behind, your lines. And then boom! See, now you have a perfectly masked character, and you didn't have to spend an hour going through and like figuring out all the little things on the hair and everything. You just let the computer do all the work for you, which is really what a professional does, right? Professionals just let the computer do all the work for them. Okay, and then I just repeated that process for the hair as well as for the tails. And then we got this, we got that, then we got that. Okay, so we've got 3 masks, like the main parts of our character, all masked out and ready to go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be moving into a color comp stage, okay? Because what we're going to start doing is now painting on top of these layers. You see this little layer right here? This is actually a clipping mask that goes on top of it. And basically the way a clipping mask works is just create a normal layer like you normally would, right? And then see how I can pull these colors outside of that layer? Well, watch what happens when I clip it, which is basically the shortcut to do it is to hold Alt between the layers, and then you'll see your little mouse change to that magical little icon. You click it, and that makes it so that way, no matter what colors you put inside of this layer, right? It's now grouped with that layer. You can't paint out of it. See how now I can't pull it outside of that? That's going to come in handy for what we're going to do right now. Okay, if that wasn't confusing enough, we're going to get right into the color comps. So I hope that I haven't lost you yet. If I haven't, if you're lost, if you're completely lost right now, don't worry. It'll be on the archive later on YouTube, and you can watch it and replay it and all that stuff, all that good stuff. All right, so what we're going to do now is we have our color comps right here, and we're going to shrink it down. Okay, we're going to shrink it down to, oh, it was already shrunk down. Okay, I just wasn't zoomed out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a few different color comps. Okay, we're going to start with 3. I think 3 is a good start. And now we're going to start the time lapse on the other screen, doing so many things at the same time today. This is awesome. This is awesome. Okay, so what we're going to try to do today is we're going to try to capture a similar feeling. My first color comp is going to be a similar feeling to what we had here in the original Ahri splash art. Then I'm going to try a couple other like crazy ones and just kind of get out of the box, right? Get out of the box and kind of do some critical thinking here, okay? Do some critical thinking, do some creative processing with the brain. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and this is actually very, very, very fun. Okay, so we're going to start with number 1. Okay, so you can see our color comp folder is right here. And we've got our lines, and we've got our colors already kind of happening here. So what's really cool about this is that I'm going to start painting right on top of this, and I'm going to keep it all very, very subtle and very simple, okay? So what we're going for here is not so much cleanliness but we're just trying to get a feel for what our final piece is going to be. Okay, so I can kind of color fairly loosely, right? Color very, very loosely. I'm actually going to color very dark here because I want to focus on creating a silhouette. I really want her to be silhouetted against the background here. All right, so let's go ahead and color this down. I actually want this to be very red. I want this to be very red and dark. So like that. Yeah, that's perfect. So again, we're thinking with dark colors first. Dark colors first. Dark colors what? First. All right, so let's go ahead and color in the dress. It's going to be like that. It's going to be like that. And hey, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Oh, I almost forgot her leg there. Almost forgot that leg. And her hair is going to be slightly dark green here. That's good. Let's go ahead and paint that in. Love it. I love it. I love it. And what I'm going to do here with the background is I'm going to paint it a slight green. Like I want it to have like a gradient happening here. So let's go ahead and paint in some green gradients. So I want it to feel something like this. It's going to kind of gradate inwards toward her face there. And I really want it to have a haunting effect, a very, very haunting look, similar to her first one. Very similar to our first one. We're going to think about our hue transitions, right? We're transitioning to more blues on the edges. More blues, very subtle stuff. Okay, and then let's like throw in some trees, right? Because I know that we wanted to have some trees in here. So let's go ahead and put those in as well. I'm going to make that a new layer over top. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and throw in some tree texture. Some tree texture. See if we can get a general idea for what we want to happen in the background. Okay. So that's pretty cool. I also think that the moon would go nice here. But of course, we don't want to make the moon brighter than her ball. See, this is one of the challenges that we're going to have here, is that we want to make sure that the background is dark enough so that way it doesn't take away too much emphasis from the ball. So let's make sure that this area right here is nice and dark. Okay? So we've got something a little more like that. Again, not worrying too much. Not worrying too much. Let's get back to where we were here. There we go. All right. Let's see. How's our... I'm going to make the hair a little bit darker too. That's good. There we go. There we go. Okay. Darken gold here. What I might end up doing as well is just duplicating this layer. Like once we get a general idea of what we're looking for, I'll probably just duplicate this layer. But at any rate, you might be asking yourself, what color should this white cloth be? Well, if you guys watched my tutorial on ambient occlusion, you would know that the shadows of the whites are going to actually be dark greens, right? Kind of in this area. Not up here. You don't paint whites. You paint the shadow of the white, which is going to be this dark green. And then that's automatically going to take into account the ambient occlusion that's happening within the cloth. And it's going to make it look freaking sick. All right. So there you go. Very good. And let's not forget this red in here. Red there. That's looking cool. Mighty cool. All right, so we've got a general idea of what we want. Let's go ahead and add some more darks in here, like on the face. A little bit of darks on the fingers as well. That's looking cool. Very cool. This red is not dark enough for my tastes. Let's also darken it down to a little bit more of a purplish. Let's add some of that in there. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right, let's go ahead and go to the hair. This hair back here, I'm going to keep these back ones very simple because, oh, whoops. I'm going to keep these back ones very simple because the tails and all that stuff, those are going to be very secondary. So for right now, we're just going to kind of paint them like that. Kind of do one of these things. There we go. Hey, that's cool. That is very cool, no? All right, so let's consider our... I'm going to put a little bit of light on these tails back here. So we get something like this. You see what I'm doing? See what I'm doing? I'm painting in some lights. Painting in lights. And this is the best way to do it. I always tell you guys, paint in your lights. And you will live long and prosper. Okay? Paint in those lights. See, so you can very quickly understand that we are starting to see a general idea of what our final piece can be. And don't worry, I mean, it's obviously we're gonna add detail to it, but this is a really cool way for you to start getting ideas of what colors you want to mix together before you start going in and be like, all right, it's time to paint this thing. All right, okay, so we're gonna have like this red here, and then it's like this green background, and it's gonna look really cool, but not too Christmassy, right? We don't want it to look Christmassy. Gotta make sure we have a good balance of everything that's happening here. And that we will achieve. Also, let's not forget about the balls. Never forget about the balls in your piece. Give them the proper detail that they deserve. But like I said, this gives you a good chance to start playing around with color, getting ideas for what you want to do. And you can see I'm actually doing this on a whole new layer. This one, we didn't even mask this one because this one is going to be very, I don't know how to describe it. It's going to be more of an after effect that we add on to it. But this allows you to get good ideas of how you're going to set up your colors and how you're going to balance your piece. And what's so important about that specifically is that it just saves a lot of time. It saves so much time, and it saves you so many headaches. So I really suggest that you guys do this. Please, please do this. You will thank me later. But we're just adding in ideas, adding in like our good old color comps, good old colors. And really what I'm concerned about right here is just making sure that this ball looks very glowy. We got to make sure that this ball looks very, very glowy. So a way to achieve that, if you guys are ever curious about making your balls look more glowy, keep this in mind. You got to make the background, whatever is behind your ball, you got to make sure that it is dark. You got to make sure that the contrast of the background is darker than the ball. Okay? So let's do one of these. Oh, wait a minute. Let's do one of these. Ah, you see how as I darken that background, the ball automatically starts to look brighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to darken this entire thing. I'm going to darken this entire thing. Just a tad bit. Just a tad bit. So that way we have a lot more glow happening there. And another thing that helps is to have your lines on a separate layer for the ball. And we're going to paint just those lines. There you go. Huh? You like that? You like that, don't ya? See? Look, it's just the lines. Just the lines are on the separate layer. I've locked the pixels with my special little thing there. And yeah, that's allowing me to paint just the lines. All right, so where were we? Where were we? Okay. So I'm actually going to blow this ball out to white because I want this thing to look really, really bright. Really bright. Crazy bright. Yeah. There we go. Alrighty then. Now let's move on to the next thing here. Let's start drawing in some of the eyes. How long have we been going for? Been going for about 20. Oh, we've been going for about 20 minutes. Awesome. Awesome. All right, so my goal here, guys, is I'm going to try to get out a couple of color comps. I want to at least have give you guys two to choose from. And we'll go as long as that takes. But, yeah, I will be putting these up on I probably will be uploading the thumbnails on Facebook. On Facebook, that's the word I was looking for. I'll be uploading on Facebook, so that way you guys can choose. But you'll also be able to choose live. So let's go ahead and do that. But one of the things that I'm really excited about, and one of my favorite things, is to make, I mean, a lot of you guys have seen me do this in the Lulu pieces. I always like to have heavy shadow on the character's face, so that way we can have glowing eyes. Glowing eyes are very, very, very cool. We want to make sure that we always have those. Always, always have those. And now what we want to do is consider the way that this ball is going to light the skin, because really a lot of our lighting is going to be coming from this ball. So you might be asking me, Keenan, what color does blue light appear on skin, on tan skin? It's actually going to be sort of like this purplish. When in doubt, I always like to go for kind of a gray and then make your way more towards whatever this color is and kind of mix the two. So you got red and blue, so we're going to have sort of like a purplish effect, okay? So let's go ahead and throw that on the edges of our skin here. And we're going to get something like this, okay? We're going to start blending this. But this is just to get an idea of what our color comps are going to look like, or what our final piece is going to look like, rather. So we can have something like that. We'll have, obviously it's going to have a lot more of a prominent effect on the hair here. So let's make sure we show that. Much more prominent on the hair. So we've got that going on, but then we also have to consider the backlighting, the lighting of the back. So I'm actually probably going to focus on that first. So we're going to have some subsurface scattering happening here. We're going to have some rim light happening there, all along the ears and the hair here. Really good. Really good. But you can see very quickly our piece is coming together. Very well. Very well. And let's make sure we have that hard shadow there. And we're going to have the blue being just soaked up by this white, right? The white of her cloth here is going to be very, very vibrant against the blue balls. Let's go ahead and put that in. And we're going to have a little bit more being soaked up down here. You really want to think about how the fabric is interacting with the light. That's what I most of the time think about. It's like it's white fabric, and so it is going to reflect back the main source of light. So it's going to be blue. You don't want to just go and paint it white right off the bat. I mean, you don't want to just go all willy-nilly. Willy-nilly. You don't do that, okay? We've learned not to do that. But we do want to make sure that we have a little bit of our gold in here. And yeah, a little bit of that in there. That looks good. I'll probably have a little bit of reflected light happening as well. And then let's not forget that there. Let's get that skin looking good. Put a little bit more of this subsurface stuff happening. When in doubt, just saturate it. I don't know if that means anything, but it means something to me. All right. We're also going to have light here, and it's going to be captured there. Cool. Boom, 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 boom. A little bit of blue on there. Just a tad bit. Now I do want to have a little bit of this red kind of coming through. The way I think about lighting this is that it's going to be heavy backlighting with a silhouette, and then there's going to be like a sort of a very calm ambient white light, I guess you could say, coming from the front. That way we can have a little bit of our local color, which is a fancy way of saying the real color. Okay, so that way we can actually get those reds in there. Because if it wasn't for like a light front lighting, the whole piece would, like her reds, you wouldn't even be able to see that her dress was red. It would just look like gray. Okay, so yeah, overall I'm liking that. Overall I'm liking that very much. I need a little more blush though. A little more blush in the cheeks, a little bit on that shoulder there. Might be a little too pink, but whatever. We're not worrying about that right now. A little bit of red on the lips there. Yeah, and make sure you zoom out. Zooming out is really going to give you the best feeling for what you're getting so far. It's going to give you a good idea of where you're going and what you want to do. So speaking of that front ambient light, let's go ahead and get a little bit of her skin tone in there. A little bit of that actual skin tone along the leg like this, because that's going to look freaking sexy. Like that, see? Actually, I kind of want to make it a little more desaturated. A little more desaturated, make it a little more eerie. There we go. There we go. In fact, I might end up making her skin as a whole just a little bit more subdued. Like that. Yeah, I like that. Soften that a little bit. Yeah. See? There you go. There you go. And then for this hand, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I am going to have a little bit of that ambient light up here in the front. That's cool. That's cool. And let's not forget the red nails. Red nails, red nails, red nails, red nails. Cool. All right, so I'm liking that so far. One thing that I can see that I want to fix a little bit is the tails. I'm probably going to push them to be a little bit more blue. Because we're awesome, when we set things up properly, we can just hit Control U, and you shift them over to a bluish. You see that? See how we can just kind of play around with the slider and find our suitable colors? See, it's like, oh, maybe we can make them more yellow. Maybe a little bit more this way, more blue. Oh, that looks really nice. A little more purple. Oh, actually, that kind of looks cool too. But I think right in this area is where we're hitting our sweet spot. Right in that area is where we're hitting our sweet spot. Because it's kind of pulling the blues from here. It's kind of introducing them into the tails that are surrounding her. And I do like that. All right, so we're going to call that one good for now. And we're going to move on to the next one in just an interest of time. And we're going to do another one. And this one we're going to go a little bit more crazy with. Or should we? Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. What I'm thinking I will do, though, is that I'm probably just going to copy this one over. I'm just going to copy this one over, and then we'll make some adjustments to it. Because we're awesome and we can do that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to adjust is the background, the main source of a lot of our backlighting and stuff like that. So let's see, what do we want to do here? What do we want to do here? Do we want to go more blue? Oh, blue actually looks really cool too. Look at that. Look at how cool that looks. That looks really nice. That actually gives me a little bit more of a feeling of eeriness as opposed to this one. This green one feels very, I mean, I don't do much like color theory study, but I've heard that green is very kind of soothing, whereas blue can be a little bit more like chilling or discomforting if used in the right way. Blue can also be very comforting as well, but immediately I notice a big change with that. Interesting, no? That's why you set up your layers, so that way you can do that. But let's kind of play around with some other ones too. Oh, I like that purple. That purple looks cool too. Pink, that's just okay for me. I really like this purplish blue. That looks really cool. Damn. I mean, dang. This is a PG-13 program. I apologize for the language. But I'm really liking this blue. I think we're gonna. Oh man, that looks awesome. Wow, that looks cool. I really like that a lot. And then the green, actually, that's happening throughout here can actually be a little bit of the ambient front light. The ambient front light can have a little bit of a green to it. That's how we can justify that. We can justify that. Justify that just fine. So because it is a little bit more green, we're going to be pushed a little bit more towards the reds. All right, so let's get a little bit more of a red in there. Ooh, yeah, I'm liking that. Oh, that's cool. See how we hue shifted more towards, we have like purples and stuff over here. Then we went more towards like this orange. And I want you to pay attention to just this little slider right here. Okay, it's a slight adjustment, but it makes a big difference when you hue shift as well as value shift. So now we're getting somewhere. And it makes her look really shiny, which I really like. I really like it. Yeah. So immediately I'm really drawn to this one. Very much so. Very, very drawn to this. Let's make sure we are getting some more of this. Let's bring that up. Let's have a little more of a shine happening there. Shine on. Let's just make her shiny. Just make Ahri all shiny. All kinds of shiny. Yeah. Maybe not that shiny. Gotta make sure I keep this nice and soft. I want to make sure I don't make her head too crazy up in here. Dang, that looks cool. Power of thumbnails. I'm so happy that this actually worked. I'm so happy that I was able to do this live. Because usually when I do this stuff, I'm in my zone. Okay, I'm in my zone. I have my my music playing. I'm in my little artist, my safe little artist place. Nobody can hurt me. Nobody can hurt me. And that's when my good work comes out. But clearly, I could just do this in front of 100 people. I can do this in front of 100 people. Love it. Wow. Really liking this. Really liking this a lot. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep working on this, guys. I'm going to keep working on this. And as we finish up the day, I'd like to invite you to participate in a little something we like to call Question Catapult. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please cast your questions over the castle walls, as has been instructed in the awesome video created by someone0956, a very talented animator. Any questions you have about the piece that we're working on, I'll answer them, and then we'll conclude our day. But yeah, both of these are looking really cool. This is looking really strong over here. I feel like maybe what was pulling me away from this one is that the green with the red is already a little bit too far away in terms of the color spectrum. We can have a little bit of green back in here, but it has to be very desaturated. Because I do want to have a little bit of green, just as an homage to the OG over here. So, yeah, and there's going to be tons of little changes that I'll make. I'll probably make another color comp here or there, and then I'll post that on Facebook. But at any rate, it's time for your questions as I continue fiddling around. Fiddling around. Like fiddlesticks. You guys are saying you really like it so far. You guys are saying you'd put it as your desktop. That is flattering. That is flattering. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We got a long way to go. Actually, what's interesting is that I say we have a long way to go, but the way that I set up my drawings now, I make them in such a way that the process from right now to the finished piece is actually not going to be that hard, especially because we're going to start doing line coloring. We're going to start coloring our lines, and it's going to be freaking awesome. So, yeah. But what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to kind of simulate a little bit of the blue that's going to be hitting the edges of her dress, as well as like this edges over here. A little bit of that happening. We're going to have a little bit more something like that. Oh, yeah. See how cool that looks? Dang, that looks cool. Whoa, that looks cool. A little too much. A little too much. Blue there, blue there. I like it. All right, guys. It's time for a little questions and answers. Questions and answers. First question coming in. Coming in from Rated M Lol. He or she asks, every time I color a digital drawing, it feels flat when I add the shadows. What would you recommend for me to do? Well, it's interesting that you say add the shadows, because as I have demonstrated today in this piece, you guys will notice that how we set this up is we started with dark. We started with dark colors, and then we added in the lights. And this is something that I used to do very much so when I first started doing digital art. I would add the shadows in. I would basically paint the local color. Remember what local color is? It's the real color. And then I would add shadows on top of that. But what I want to urge you to try is thinking of what does this object look before light is placed onto it? What is the shadow of this object? So when I paint skin, I paint the dark shadow version of that skin and then add in the colors. And I think you'll find that this will help you to not only understand more of how color changes happen as light is introduced, but it will give you a more natural feeling. And just overall, it just makes your pictures look so much better. So it's freaking awesome. And one thing that I can also say, and I'm going to take myself away really quick. You can tell when you have a good piece when these are your color comps, right? But another thing I like to do is look up in this navigator. And if your colors are mixing well up here and you look at that and like, that is cool. That's a cool mix right there. You got the little ball right there and then just this mix of colors. If that looks good, then you have a good piece. So next question coming in. I'll take 2 more questions. Sorry, I can't answer everybody's. Let's see. What process did you go through when making exaggerating foreshortening poses that look natural and not funky? All right, that is a great question. It's coming in from 096. Iffy. One of the things that I really like to do is when in doubt, I just take a picture of my own self. And what's really cool, here I'll show you the exact picture that I took of the hand. And I will take a picture not only just using my webcam. Again, as I've said, the webcam is a huge, awesome tool because you can literally take a picture of your hand or whatever you want to do and then draw it in. And then for the body, if you go back and look at the older tutorials, that'll give you more answers to the questions that you're asking here. Whereas you break down the body into simple shapes and you think of drawing those shapes. Don't draw a body, but draw those shapes in perspective. And then, build the body and add the clothes on top of it. And it'll just look a lot more natural as opposed to trying to draw the clothes in perspective. Then draw the leg kind of coming out from the cloth in perspective. I laid down all that stuff earlier, and you can see that in the earlier shows on YouTube. All right. Last question. These are great questions, by the way, guys. Thank you so much. Do you have a general rule for your line weight? Oh, Albro is asking a great question. Your lines have a different thickness in different places and they fall together well. What is your thought process when doing them? Okay. Yes, this is a great question. So, rule of thumb, I basically create my line work so that way the closer an object is to you, the thicker the lines. So you can see how the hand right here has much thicker lines than, say, the hand in the back, right? Or the tails. Some of these tails have like thicker lines, but it's just because they're a little more sketchy. But in general, I really like to make the outside silhouettes of the characters a little bit thicker. Things that overlap, such as like the cloth overlapping the shoulder here. You want to make sure that you have a slightly thicker line. It's not going to be too much of a big problem here, or it's not so important here because we're eventually going to get rid of all of our lines, right? We're going to turn it into a splash art and you don't see any lines in those pieces. So eventually we're going to get rid of all of them. But in general, kind of my comic book instinct makes me want to make objects that are closer to you have thicker lines. But yeah, just consider that. As things get closer to you, thicker lines. As they fall further back into the background, you have thinner lines. All right, guys. Well, out of the way, we're going to call that a good show. Good show, young man. Good show, old chap. That was a great episode 207. I'm super excited that we got some of our color comps together. I'll probably do like a third one and then post it on Facebook for you guys to kind of talk about and decide which one you'd like to see us go forward with on. But we're going to wrap up this week's show. Thank you guys for joining me on Twitch. We went for about 45 minutes today. Hey, how's that? For all those of you who've been asking for longer shows, you finally got it. So I hope you're happy. And yeah, we'll see how happy you are next week. All right. So you guys take care. I'll see you next time. Till then, see ya.